Hello, my beautiful Cassandra, or Cass, how I want it, isn't it?
It does not
It
matter, however
doesn't
you want to
matter.
call me.
Okay. Cass for me, it's wonderful, it's magical, and I'm so stoked that we're again together, speaking about something very interesting today and also very enticing. So, dear followers and watchers, stay put, don't go away. This is very, very, how should I say? Do you have a word?
I
Hidden
would
truth.
say, yeah, mysterious, I
Mysterious.
suppose, because we get to go into the mystery of what this really is and how this has been utilized in a way to keep people kind of in this state of fear and disempowerment.
Yeah, and the big topic is God, or source, or divinity, or great mother, or great father, or however you want it, however you connect, however it sounds in a way that doesn't repel you. And if it does repel you, well, let's see a bit what's going on there, because I was also repelled at one point with the word God, so I chose Divine Mother for a long time. But that's like a tangent going into the divine masculine and the relationship with the masculine, like a note,
Yeah,
closing
yeah.
the closing the note. And so, Cass, let me know, and let our followers know a bit about like your history with God, faith, so we get a little bit of context here.
Absolutely. So I grew up in a family that had many different denominations. One of the main ones being Catholic, then there was Protestant and United. So we have a few different Christian denominations. And I grew up, especially as a child, with my grandparents actually going to church every single Sunday. I was in Sunday school, I was in youth group when I got older. I've had a lot of interesting experiences that I can speak to in regards to all that. But
Mm.
as the time went on, going to church like all the time, I started actually questioning things at a really young age. And I was met with a lot of hostility around the questions that I had. And it wasn't, up until I was like 12, 13, even though I was still going to youth group, I still knew that something wasn't quite right and sitting right with me in
Mm.
regards to, the religion and what we're being taught.
Mm-hmm.
So I've read the Bible many times.
I had quite a similar experience now that I was listening to you. In my family, there were also two different religions, let's say, even though they're both Christian denominations. And I explored both of them because I remember being very, very curious and drawn to God, and at that time Jesus. I was very, and I do have like a special connection with Jesus. It's like since I was born, maybe, probably from other lives, but not probably, for sure from other lives. And now it popped up again, and I was like so curious about his life and why everything happened like it happened. And I had this cousin that I went to visit all the time and ask him a lot of questions about like why is that and how is that, and he would answer me from the Bible a lot. And then I went to explore the Orthodox Church. Our main religion in where I'm from is Orthodox Christianity. And then the other one, which is a smaller denomination, is also Christian but different. Um, Both of them let me down, because this is what I was going to ask you as well. Both of them let me down because of the people. One, the people, because I
Yeah,
was like putting this halo on everyone in church, in the
same.
sense that they are like faithful people, they are so good, they are open hearted, they love their neighbor, they like all of that. And my first experience with a priest was one that I don't even go want to go into it, but it was very disappointing. And then in the other church that I went for, I don't even know, a year or two, something like that, I explored it as well. I also found that people there were just regular people, like they didn't have any big faith, and they didn't have like God in their hearts every day. They didn't walk on water. They were like just regular people that, yeah, for me was disappointing. Having these like teenage, pure hearted, expectations to find, that loving environment, to find that peace, to find that, support, to find that um, all encompassing, let's say, love. But what I found was separation, was fear, was a lot of stuff that are human and not very pleasant. So, what let you down, or what made you maybe go astray a little bit from the religion
Well,
path?
very similar things to you. Like I expected it to be really supportive and welcoming and loving, but I didn't really experience much of that unless I 100% had the exact same mindset and beliefs that they did. That
Mm,
would be the only time they were that welcoming and opening. So I found that interesting because I know a lot of this, I expected unconditional love. I expected to be able to have conversations about things that weren't understood. But
yeah.
I was always met with, well, you just have to believe. You just have to, have faith and things to that nature. But like you, I found out that I was putting them all on pedestals, right? Oh, they're a part of this church. They must all be really good, amazing people, and not saying that they're not, but a lot of them, they were just regular people with still some of the negative mindset and beliefs.
Mm,
And I actually went through quite a bit of different types of abuse at a few different churches growing up too. So that was the other thing is that I realized that no matter if it's like church scenario or any other place, it's still human nature. There's still people involved. And even though they might
I know I don't hear you. Let's see. No. Yeah, a little
so
glitch going on.
yeah. Okay, now I don't remember what I was saying.
It was interesting that I couldn't hear you anymore when you were talking about the, like why you went astray from the church because people
Yeah,
there were not welcoming
yeah,
and loving and like how you expected them to be. The same with my
yeah.
case. Yeah, and another thing that while I was growing up and like having a mind of my own, and I'm a very curious person. I have always been a very curious person and always asked a lot of questions and always wanted to know like why is that and why is that and why is that.
Me too.
Yeah. And as you said, like this is, I think this is where you got interrupted. When you asked questions and you thought that you would be welcomed to speak about things, and you were told just believe, just that's that. You just have to believe it. And for me, that is not standing in any case, in any system, in any way, like just believe stuff, because this is how we got to where we are, and that
Exactly.
is disconnected. And I found and I believe that one of the biggest diseases, let's say, diseases, yeah, in our day, humanity wise, is disconnection from God, from our heart, from our body, from ourselves, from our own sovereign being that we are, you know? And that started with just believe what I tell you, and if not, you're a sinful person. You are bad. You are gonna go to that bad place that we now know. Flash news, it's not real. Yeah, and we were talking a bit before we went on this connection today about the middleman, and this I think deserves a little bit of space to
Mhm.
talk about and to giving it to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is, of course, my opinions and beliefs over the majority of my lifetime of being in church and learning and realizing. And I'm not saying that every church is like this, but the ones that I've been to specifically, it's like it was just regurgitated information. They were just
Oh,
memorizing the book, reading from the book. There was no other insights or interpretations, you know. And there wasn't a lot of physical embodiment either in a day-to-day life. It's just like you come here, you
Yeah,
listen, you get inspired, you go back to regular life, nothing changes for the most part, right?
that's the most important thing, my
Yeah,
opinion,
and
because yeah, that's what I think I was actually lacking, and that's why
yeah,
the disappointment, because I didn't see embodied faith. I didn't see embodied
exactly.
divinity. I didn't see like what you preach and what you hear the other one preaches from this holy book doesn't apply. It doesn't, you cannot see it in your day-to-day life.
Exactly. And then that becomes escapism because you're just taking that time to just be embodied in that moment and not choosing it any other time in your life. And also not having the actual tools to do that. Because other than reading and going to Bible study, we weren't really taught any other embodiments other than singing some hymns and things to that nature, right?
Mm.
But we were also taught that we could only reach divinity if we went through Jesus, right? And I understand that whole concept, but I think it's been skewed because I don't think a lot of people really understand what that means. And anytime that I've gone into my own type of meditation and connected with the archetype of Jesus, the energy of him, basically his teachings were all about love. So when he's talking about accepting me in your heart is literally talking about accepting love into your heart. And that is the portal. That is what connects you to divinity, is actually living through that sense of love. You don't necessarily need him to access, but that's what I was taught my whole life, that you only need him and
To
you
deliver
need
you,
him
to
to
save
deliver
you.
you. But even then, most of the time, you still can't talk to God. It's only reserved for priests or the high priestesses
The
and things
other
to that
middlemen.
nature.
The
Yeah, like
other
we're just
middlemen.
these little muggles, who cannot access. It's only these certain appointed people that can ever have access to God. And that never sat right with me, ever. That was my biggest disappointment, I think, is feeling spiritually disempowered.
Yes, that for me came up when I was like older, and I felt so bad. Now I remember I felt so bad and so like guilty in a way that I thought, and I even like dared to sometimes voice out, like, why do I need someone that is a person like me, to tell me what is holy and what is not holy, or to tell me how to live my life to not be like sinful and punished and all of that, or to make me holy in a way, or whatever, the discourse is. Um, because I always saw that like, and again, it's not that there aren't priests and middlemen and whatever, that are very pure hearted and very connected, but in my experience, the majority, that's not the case. And that is my disappointment. And that is why I took another path that I didn't see and I still don't see embodiment. I mean, don't go there preaching love and then you say love once and then you say fear 3 times or 10 times. And for me, it was like, how can a God that is love, and you speak about love, be also fear inducing God, and a God that punishes you? And that, you know, if you think about it a little bit more, like I invite people to like think with your brain a bit, because it's hilarious how we were so trained and programmed to believe that if we don't do those gazillion things, little things like fast and not speak something and not whatever, um, we are sinful, we are punishable, we are bad people. How is this sitting with Jesus' teachings about love? How is this sitting with preaching that God loves us all? Like, let's look a little bit at all the contradictions.
Yeah.
How is God love when you kill other people in his name? What does have what the that doesn't have anything to do with God. And if I want to take it even further, my view and my belief is God doesn't even have to do anything with religion. And I know this is big, but it's a reality. I
Hmm.
mean, we're all sparks of divinity, parts of God. God is, like you said, found within us. And this doesn't mean that I'm gonna worship myself and become a narcissistic person, because I know this can
Spiritual
go
ego.
that way. It can go that way sometimes.
It can, one extreme to the next.
Uh, but the gateway, the portal, is from within, is inside of you. First of all, start thinking with your head, start asking questions, start looking at all the contradictions, and then start going inwards,
Mhm.
and find, maybe start with those little moments of silence when you put your hand on your heart. And instead of reading something from a book that someone gave you, how about just saying something like, God, I want to speak to you. I want to hear you. It's me. And even if it's weird, and I don't know how to speak to you, and this is new, and I feel awkward, I still want to get to know you more.
Mhm.
Because I deserve that. I'm not a bad person if I go straight to God,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I mean, when it comes to the concept of sin and things to that nature, like my belief is the only way you can actually disconnect yourself from source is if you choose to make negative choices for yourself and you continue to do so your entire life and maybe lifetime of making negative choices. It's
Mm,
not something that happens overnight. And that doesn't mean that even if you have disconnected yourself, that there's no redemption. Like you can start making positive choices again and start turning the tide and coming back from all of that. Like
yeah.
I truly believe that we are in charge of that divine destiny that is not outside of us. No one else can decide that for us. We just have to know what our truth is and actually take those steps in our life and continue to do so. Because what might be a negative choice for you might not be a negative choice for me.
Yeah.
It all depends on like what our truth and our values are. And I don't mean that in the way where if someone says my value is to be, a person that hurts others, that doesn't
Yeah.
make it a positive choice.
Yeah.
Okay. There are still things that are true for everyone, like universal wisdom, right? Like harming other people is obviously going to be a negative choice for the most part, right? There is self-defense and blah blah, but I don't want to get
Yeah.
into like all the
Yeah.
nitty-gritty here, but just looking at what would be positive, right? Like
Yeah.
for me, it's stepping away from drama,
Mm.
right? Not being involved in other people's lives and what they do.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what would you say, or what is for you, some of the ways, maybe one or two ways that you can also share with us,
Mhm.
which helped you come closer to God in your own, creating your own personal relationship? Because I guess there has been a journey, like
Oh
from
yeah.
religion, from church, from discovering stuff, from asking questions, from going into like curiosity mode and let's see what's there. uh, you know
Yeah.
how, or what's your favorite ways to connect with God directly?
So I have a few different favorite ways. And it's interesting because through my experiences for so long, I mean, like you mentioned it as well, I could not even say the word God for the longest time. It's only been the last, I would say, year and a half that
Yes.
that word has even come back into my vocabulary.
Yes.
And I had to do a lot of work on that and specifically work around the heart,
Mm,
right? So knowing that it is that gateway, that connection up all the way to source consciousness. And you don't even have to know like what dimension that is, but I mean, from my learning, it's 12th and 13th dimension because it has the masculine and feminine that go together.
Mm,
And what I do is just visualize a cord coming from my heart
mm,
and just all the way up to source consciousness, God consciousness, whatever you want to call it, whatever label works for you. And I just visualize that it goes there automatically and connects. And
mm,
if I'm holding on to a lot of pain or things that I'm having a hard time dealing with, whatever emotions those are, I actually start bringing it up through that cord and bring it up to God
mm,
and allow it to transmute that way. Not in an escapism way. Like I still feel the emotions, but a lot of my worries, a lot of my concerns, I just hand it off to God and I see that transmute. And usually what comes down that line is solutions and love and support, which I find really helpful. So I might not always hear it as a voice,
yeah.
but sometimes I get it as sparks of inspiration or solutions or guidance on my next step. It's like that feeling, that magnet pulling me towards where I need to go. Like even last weekend as well, I had a bit of a breakdown, which is fun because, most people won't talk about the hard times, right?
Yeah.
And for me, like I was dealing with a lot and I just
Yeah.
felt like I had no idea what was even happening or what the solution would even be. I was just in that moment of nothing is working. I don't know what to do anymore in
Yeah.
certain aspects in my life. And I let myself have that little breakdown.
Mhm. Sure.
I let it happen for a little bit,
Mm,
but I knew I wasn't going to stay there. And I did that whole connection while also receiving some beautiful support from the closest people in my life. And then it was like five different solutions opened up and it just started unraveling. So I know that's divinely led, whether that's my higher self or God. I mean, it's all one and the same to me. So I
mm,
started following it that way. So that's the number one thing that I like to do. The other ones might seem super simplistic, but practical action doesn't have to be complicated.
yeah.
So your connection to God doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
So if I'm starting to feel a little bit disconnected, I go into nature. I
Mm,
will go and sit with trees.
favorite. Yeah.
Exactly. I will stream my energy with a tree. And how do you stream energy with a tree? You literally stand beside it or sit beside it and you just breathe.
Mm.
And then
And you
you
can
just
even
breathe
talk
in.
to the tree if you want. I do that.
Yeah,
I'm like, thank you for
me
holding
too.
me in your arms and thank you for like enveloping me with your beautiful energy. We're just
Yeah,
like saying hi. Sometimes, depending on what I feel from the tree, it's like, hey, you're so wise. Thank you so much for your wisdom, or whatever comes to soul. I want to say, not to mind. Um, I speak to the trees or I just hug the tree or I just like sit to the root of the tree and like this for like whatever time I feel. Or the earth
yeah,
itself as well, Mother Gaia, that's also a very heart opening because what we're
very
going
grounding.
towards is heart opening, grounding
Yeah,
and heart opening things that get you closer to God in a
exactly.
palpable way.
Exactly. And you can't do that heart opening if you're not present, if you're not grounded, if you're not connected to your physical body on this planet.
And feelings. And if you don't allow yourself to feel the feelings, I was telling one of my
Mm,
clients recently something like along the lines that if you allow yourself to feel the pain that you so much dread and you don't want to go there, we all know it's not comfortable. But if you allow yourself to feel that pain, your heart opens actually. And you
yeah,
can feel so much more, and then you can feel
exactly.
the joy, and then you can feel the gratefulness, the gratitude, then you can feel so much more. So when we dial down, I don't want to feel the bad negative feelings, then you're going to go numb, and that
Exactly.
disconnects you. So
It will.
besides all of the paradigms, all of the induced fear, all of the programming through religion, all of the like we need a middleman or you're sinful or you're bad, maybe, or not maybe, but part of this equation is you coming back into your heart, you doing your own work and inner work so that you reestablish and remember. because it's there. You're never
It is.
truly not connected to God. You just like forgot. There's a pile, a ton of stuff that it's like parasitic, let's say. There's a ton of like distortions. There's a ton of like
Or
I don't even
mental
want to go
implants,
down
different
that
belief
route because we
systems.
need to do a clearing then.
That
So,
that would be a whole other thing that
other
we will
subject
do.
for other time.
Please.
But there's a ton of stuff going on, and I noticed that, for example, if you have frequent like headaches, or if you feel like weird around your head, or if you have like health stuff going on with your head, or if even like if your hair falls down a lot, um, think about reconnecting with God is one of the solutions.
Hmm?
Because a lot of times here, there's like on an energetic level, there's a disconnection going on in the way that it's parasites. There's a lot of like dark energy. There's a lot of, distortions, illusions, all of that. So that it's kind of making you feel confused, alone, like you have no support, like there's no one out there for you, like you have to like struggle and hustle and fight your way through life.
Yeah.
And when you reconnect and you come back into your heart and start practicing these little things, I suggested the one with the little moments of quiet, when you put your hand on your heart and you breathe into your heart and you just start talking to God in any way that you can, in any way that comes to you. Even if it's awkward, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not, it doesn't have to sound in any way. It's the
No.
intention, it's the energy behind it. It's that you really open up and want to reconnect. And one of the things that I started like reconnecting with myself, is prayer in a way that is done more often than before. And in a way where, like, if I don't know something, if I find myself stuck, if I find myself like in between choices and I have no idea, it's like, God, show me, show me. Because my little
Yeah.
mind, my human mind, my human mind is like this narrow, and the divine mind is like this
So
big, this
open.
wide. So I recognize, talking about a bit of humility and a bit of like, not worshiping myself, but understanding that even if I am divine and I am sovereign and I am multidimensional and I am a very wise old soul, in the same time, I don't see it all. I don't know it all. I don't have all.
Exactly.
In my human experience, there's times, like you said, like the breakdown. Like I had my own breakdown like last year that lasted like into this year, and it was like very rough. Um, those moments are the ones where we don't know, we don't see, we're kind of lost, we're kind of confused, we're having those meltdowns. So what do I do first? God, please, thank you for the signs you're sending me, and even
Yeah.
be more specific as you can. I need this, God, or send me clear messages today, God, or whatever kind of specific you want to be, because that's not a problem. You will not be punished because you do that, or you dare that.
Exactly.
We're here to uplift, and our conversation is here to uplift and to remind you that you are worthy. You are a divine being. You are a powerful sovereign being. You are like this wonderful multidimensional woman or man, in this lifetime, that is totally deserving by birth to talk to God, to feel God, to have God. Not even to say that ourselves are a manifestation, you know,
Agreed. Yeah.
a divine manifestation as well. So, how important is faith for you?
For me, it's
Faith.
number one. Like I need to have faith in God and the universe because I know it will always provide and bring what is needed in many different ways too. And that's kind of what I learned last weekend when I was kind of having a bit of
Mm.
my little breakdown is
Yep.
that I put pressure on myself to create, to provide, to do all the things, to make things happen, to make things appear like money or whatever, right?
Yes.
And I wasn't receiving enough and
Yes.
I wasn't able to see like where my support would come from.
Mm.
And once I realized I wasn't open enough to receive enough support, that's when things started to change immediately. Things started to come in left, right, and center in like the craziest of ways that I never would have expected. And I could really feel that it wasn't on me to create everything and that I was supported. That doesn't mean that I get to sit around and do nothing because
Sure.
that's not me. I don't, and we can't, obviously.
Sure.
But
Sure.
it's to know that not everything has to come through us. There is tons of support out there. And of course, where I live in the Western world, everything is so me centric,
Mm.
right? Everything has to be done by me, created by me, initiated by me in some capacity. And there isn't a lot of reciprocation, which is the biggest problem in separation consciousness, right? It's me versus the world, me versus everyone else, no one coming together in community and support. And that is what I like had tears. I could literally see tears in my heart last weekend because all I want is a community where we could support each other, where
Mm.
we don't have to do it all alone. And that's been such a theme over the last few months is I'm done doing this all alone.
Mm.
So looking for that sense of community, building community. It's like my biggest dream to eventually have like a piece of property to be able to have like a farm stand and sell our overflow and sell our baked goods
Yes.
and having other people around so we can just share and help each other live,
Yes.
you know?
That's also where I'm going to, and we have the properties, just like starting to do something with it, and all in
So,
divine timing. And yeah,
yeah.
that's I think that's where we're headed, like humanity wise as well. A lot of us start to wake up and to understand and to feel this need and this pull, towards community, towards not being alone anymore, towards, leaning more for help or whatever. Um, and coming back to faith, but because this is I think this is a very important point in our discussion because there's, majority of people, when I ask them what's your relationship with God, the answer is, I have faith, I'm faithful. But this faithful is not church faithful, because church faithful is usually just mind faithful, like mental, believing that you have faith. And then my question is, okay, so when there's a rough patch in your life, let's say your kid gets sick, or let's say you don't have money anymore, or clients anymore, or you're fired, or you have a, God forbid, an accident or something like that, you know, where's your faith then? Do you still have the faith? Do you still feel the faith? Or even in the littlest of things, like, for example, people don't sign up for your offer, or uh, this month your income has a downside, or whatever, your boyfriend splits up with you, stuff like this, or you have a big fight with someone. Like in those moments, how do you carry yourself faith wise? This is such a big thing because this goes into embodiment.
Hmm.
This goes into how I am living faith, how I am embodying and living divinity, God. And I mention this because for me, this is so big in my life. And when people ask me, how do you do it? Or how have you done this? I'm always like, I don't know. I don't know. But when I look back, it's faith. It's
Yeah.
literally faith. I mean, I'm that person that some people might call idealistic or illusion a little bit or head in the
Same.
clouds or something like that. Um,
Utopian.
Utopian. But when I feel and I live the faith, I cannot explain that in words. I mean, There were like 3 or 4 months last year where no clients and no money got in. This is the most like basic thing for everybody else to relate. When you don't have money, you go into what? Anxiousness, fear, you start struggling, you start like doing more, even more, even more. You like start hustling, maybe, you go into more desperation, and all of this vortex and whirlwind of emotions and, taking you down, basically. Being aware, myself being aware of the theme that I had with money, for example, we all have a theme here, I'm sure, or majority of us,
Yeah.
to integrate and to grow into. Um, I was very lucid when I said, you know what? I'll choose to have faith and to surrender even more into this, even if I don't see any result, even if this month I'll have zero in my account. I choose to remain, in this strong faith in God. I know you will show me whatever I need to learn from this, because if I'm in this point, it means that I have something to see here, to learn from this. And in the same time, I will not go into scarcity and fear again. Of course, it paid off. And in
Yeah.
other littlest of things, like manifesting stuff, like I want a red car that has this and this, and it is like this, and literally believing and having faith for I don't know how many months that that car will show up, and it did.
Exactly. I did the same thing last year, and I know it sounds super basic with it being a car, but it literally was like 3 days that I
Yeah,
manifested the
that's
car I wanted.
awesome. That's awesome. For us, it was a
Right?
month, but it was also a
Yeah,
lot
but
of
it can be.
lessons, a lot of lessons of detaching there, of
Exactly.
detachment. Yeah.
Yeah. And from start to finish, it was like a month, but there was other things at play, but that's the thing. Like you have to know that it's going to work out. And that is like the faith and belief that's always in my heart is that something will come along, something will happen. I will get a feeling or a nudge and know where I'm going to be led. Like any months I've had really low months, I'm like, oh, it's because I've been avoiding creating this thing that I want to launch. And it's super important to me. And I haven't been putting the time because I've been too busy with clients.
Yes.
So when I've had that downturn, I'm like, I need to finish this. And then I got it done and things went back to normal.
That's awesome. And in the same time, still related to faith, I had a flash now when you were speaking. Like someone had a really bad breakup, and she said something along the lines, God took this from me, and He didn't give me another one to support me, to be here with me, another partner, someone else. And my take was, what if this is God's way of supporting you actually?
Exactly. What if that wasn't the highest
What
aligned
if this is
relationship?
how can we look at this, and what can you learn from this experience that is actually empowering you?
Exactly. It's redirections. Anytime that things like that happen, instead of me saying, why is this happening to me? I say, what is this
And
teaching me?
yeah,
And what
yeah,
is the redirection here? What have I been avoiding in this relationship too? Because that can be a thing. Like you're in a relationship for a long time or even a short time, and maybe you stop actually doing the things that you love and not following through on things anymore. Maybe you
mm.
don't stay true to yourself in that relationship, or there's
And
some
all the
codependency
patterns, because relationships are so
pattern. Yeah,
complicated. Like look at the
so
patterns. Like
complicated.
what were the patterns in your relationship that you kept repeating? And
Exactly.
now you have an opportunity, even though it seems painful for the moment, let's switch, the perspective and see and try to like integrate every moment that is kind of tough is an opportunity for us to learn something else about ourselves, to integrate something else, to see
It
something.
can be, yeah, it can be like divine protection, right? It's so insane the
Oh,
amount of
for
times that
me,
it's actually
always.
happened with me.
Yeah.
And I could have been stuck because even recently I lost one of my, well, I didn't lose. I'm going to reframe that. I chose to end a long-term friendship.
Yeah.
And it was because God literally showed me how this person wasn't having my highest best interest at heart. Whether the things were done out of naivety or not, it was still something that was completely harmful to me as a
Yes.
person. So, and it's not like this was a boundary thing I could talk about and just sweep it under the rug. It was
Yes.
something that was like, no, this
Period.
is
Yeah.
actually dangerous.
No. Okay.
So God showed me,
Mm.
and I was able to make that decision for myself. And even in those moments where it was really hard, I actually was praying to God saying, "Thank you for showing me who actually has my highest in their heart and who doesn't." So even though it was a painful experience, I was actually thankful to God for showing me what was actually happening.
Me too. The same. The same. I had this experience like a couple of years ago, where I ended a relationship that was a long relationship, and I was like eye opened at some point,
Ah,
and even though it was very tough for me to like end it definitively, it took me some time to like untangle energetically from that and all of that. I was so grateful. Like, oh my God, I could have not have seen this, you know? It's so good that I have seen this and that I'm now free of it and that I'm now, a more empowered person and I'm not, the one that I was before shortly, but so everything is like a blessing in disguise. And
exactly.
another point that for me is so important and that I learned through my experience is also that it is not your business how your business is to open up to possibility. As you
Exactly.
said and you mentioned, I'm just like putting a dot on it right now. Like
We can't micromanage God.
it's not like think about it like your little mind is so obsessed with control and so programmed with fear, with anxiety, with worrying, where like I need to know this and this needs to happen like this. And if I don't have money like this or if I don't have a relationship like this, then whatever catastrophe goes on in your head, you know? And in the same time, what if there can be a gazillion other modalities, ways, doors open around you, even if you don't see it with your eyes, you know, through which everything you need comes if you open up to that.
Absolutely.
And a basic example is when I ask people, where does money come from? And they say, from a salary. And the salary, where does it come from? From my boss. And your boss, where? And I take this and I notice how very few people are connecting money, abundance with God, with,
Yeah.
with
Universal provider.
universal provider that doesn't only provide to you through a salary, that is the programming that you were made to believe,
Yeah.
and taught to believe. Same with religion and all of that discussion. Um, it's so wide. Like you don't know. You don't know how tomorrow someone can call you and give you a ton of money, or you don't know how tomorrow that car you're expecting it's appearing from nowhere. You don't know,
Yeah.
you know? So
Absolutely.
again, faith in believing, and of course, I need to say this that it's a process of restoration and it's not just like doing this and we have a relationship with God. It's step by step, so give yourself grace and patience and gentleness in this process. A lot of times what I see in the beginning of this restoration is actually taking the time to be very truthful with yourself and notice if there's anger there first, because in a lot of times there is anger first that needs to be dealt with in regards to God, and it's
Hmm.
normal and it's okay and it's just a step in this process. Like I'm very angry to God and then I have guilt on top and then I have shame on top, because how can I be
Yeah.
angry at God? I'm a bad person. And I'm sure you're also in your processes, you're this open and this truthful as well. Like feel
Yeah.
your feelings, express this first if this is your reality and your truth first, and let's see where this comes from and where the split started, because usually there's
Wait.
something going on in this life that made the split, the separation. I don't need God anymore. If he took this from me, then I'm very upset with God, so I don't want to ask him. He's a bad guy, stuff like that, whatever it is.
Yeah,
This can be a step, and it's
it
okay.
is one of the most fundamental steps that needs to be taken. That anger is real, I would say, for like 99% of people. How many in their life at least once have felt abandoned by God, right? And even in just normal everyday occurrences, like when things go wrong, when you lose your job, when you lose someone close to you, or when something really bad has actually happened to you. How many have thought, why would you let this happen? If you are a God of love, why would you let something so bad happen, not just to me, but on a mass worldwide scale? It's something you see all the time, right? There's a lot of that abandonment and anger type of feelings toward God based on the consciousness level of the planet and what's been happening.
Mm. What would be your take on this? I don't expand a lot, but just to point a little bit out because you brought in the field, and that's awesome because it's also one of my things. What's your take on like it's in the field. Many people think this, like how a loving God can allow war and genocide and all of the bad things in the world and children and all of that. What's your take on this?
This one is a hard one to address because I never want to diminish anyone's feelings and experiences
Sure.
because I've known many people that have gone through war. My family has, right? There's been so many things that have happened. But at the same time, one of the universal laws is around free will.
Yes.
So unfortunately, we're not on a planet that is void of free will. So when people hear free will, they're like, "Oh, that's amazing." Like we have all this freedom of choice without thinking there is a shadow side to that.
Mm.
While many people in their free will choose love, many will also choose shadow. And we have that duality on this planet.
Yeah.
And it's one of the universal laws. So it's not
Yeah.
that he's allowing it, he's just letting nature play out. And we all have a choice in what we respond to and
Yeah.
how we live our life. And I'm not saying if you're a good person, nothing bad will ever happen, but it will be far less often.
Yes.
And there are a lot of things that do happen to kids, like I was one of them.
Yes.
So that just showed me like the level of protection that needs to happen. And that actually helped me to start working with kids in different dynamics and families and many different people. And it just showed me how love is so needed on this planet. And it doesn't just come from him rescuing us, it comes from us embodying that sense of love. The more one person does, it ripples out to three, six, 12,
Mm.
hundreds of people.
Mm.
So we are shown that we are in control and in power in a lot of ways, not
Mm.
to be micromanaging, but it's up to us to choose and to seed what we put out there in this life. If he continuously comes down and rescues everyone, what do we learn?
Yeah, it is a it I know it is a tough answer in a sensitive subject as well, but in the same time there's so many levels you can answer this
So many
from,
layers.
because it goes also into like soul contracts, it also goes into like consciousness levels, it goes into like a lot, while not minimizing the pain of the ones that go through stuff, let's say war, because it's very present now in the world. In the same time, and this might sound cold or tough, but it's a reality from an energetic, higher point of view. Um, in the same time, they embodied knowing this for this experience.
Hmm.
And when you know, for example, that this life is not the only life that you have, when you know and you become aware that your soul is eternal, that you go on living and you go on experiencing life after life after life, then you also have this door open to work through your relationship with death and dying. And that is, again, an opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, to conclude our beautiful discussion here today, is there like anything that you feel that hasn't been said or needs to be conveyed?
Well, one thing that has come up on my mind that I do want to share is for people with their mindset perception, and maybe they've already heard of this, but when it comes to that level of pain, and you had mentioned going numb if you don't deal with your feelings, but a lot of people shy away from that pain. But the way to look at the present pain and emotions that come up for you is that when you actually feel into them, it is temporary discomfort for long-term peace.
Yes.
Whereas when you suppress, it is temporary peace, but it has long-term consequences.
Nice pen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's important for that factor to, end those patterns, to actually be in the moment to feel them so you don't suppress them and then repeat those patterns and then be miserable long
Long
term.
term. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's a lifetime evolution. It's not something that's one and done ever. Same with your connection to God. It's never going to be perfect. You're going to be evolving with that for the rest of your life. It's like a lifetime marathon. It's not a destination. It's something that continues to grow each and every single day.
Mm. And it's like tests always and always into like how much you embody your faith, how much you embody compassion, how much you embody love, how much you embody peace, how much you embody being grateful, and all of those attributes that build and build and build, and grow you from within and strengthen the relationship with God. And one thing that I
Absolutely.
wanted to mention and keeps being present is find those little things in your life that connect you with God, that make you feel, and this is by presence, like practicing presence and being aware of the little moments and things in your life that spark that feeling inside of you that you cannot describe because it cannot be described. It's just such a feeling. Um, where you feel it, you connect with God. That is God. That for you feels like God. And a little example for me is animals. For me, I'm big on animals. So for
Love
me, when I look in the eye of any animal, especially if it's a baby, but any animal, even if a cow or whatever, that for me is God, because that for me sparks and lightens up my heart, warms my heart, brings tears to my eyes, and I connect to such innocence and pureness that it makes me burst with that feeling that I cannot describe. Love, gratitude, peace, all of it mixed somehow.
it.
So, animals for me is that moment where I feel God, where I feel that purity, that peace, that love, that connection, that belonging, that heart opening everything. And that might be babies for you or for someone else, or that is also nature sometimes. For me, it's also nature, as you said as well. Like when I see like a magical sunset or a wonderful flower or some rays of light in between trees and fall and leaves falling in autumn or blooms in spring. When I see all of that, it's the same feeling that I have, that is, and makes me feel even more grateful for this life and even more grounded in, my relationship with God and divinity and source. Like this is God.
Absolutely. So it's about priming yourself to see God in everything and opening your mind to see God in everything, and even asking yourself, like, show me more divinity, whether it's a small gesture, you see someone opening a door for another person,
Oh my
right?
God, I'm such a baby with that. Like I
Me too.
literally cried. I remembered something like when our car broke down in the middle of the road and we didn't know what was going on, if it was gas or something else. And I cried literally because people stopped to ask us what's going on and if they can help. Those gestures of humanity for me are unbelievably magical
For
and
sure.
connective and emotional, and or like the drivers in traffic. This is even like weirder for some people, but like drivers in traffic that like signal each other and like help each
Yeah.
other through lights or through signs, waving or
Or
stuff.
even just wave to each other,
For
to
me,
show
that's like,
gratitude.
oh my God, yeah, it's like they care. They care about a stranger,
Yes.
you know?
That
Those those things, those moments, those, little things in life can be great anchors in a very practical way so that we turn our heads more to what God is and how he feels or she feels like instead of just staying stuck in this like fear pattern, uh, slavery mode that we have been programmed with.
exactly. Yeah.
What if God is everywhere? And how can I open myself up more to see that, to feel that, to encounter that? You know,
So beautiful.
I just want to pause, like, and I just want to invite everyone at the end of our conversation today to just bring their attention into their heart, like for a couple of breaths. Just breathe in your heart, and if you want, just support that with your hand. And let yourself feel your heart in any way that this feels for you right now. Maybe the heart beating, maybe just the energetics, maybe just the feeling. And set this intention. God, in your own words, it doesn't have to be like I say it. God, I turn back to you. Show me your presence in my life. I'm opening my eyes. Help me open my eyes, my heart, my entire being to see you and to feel you every day in all the little things. And please, God, remind me what you are about. Help me see the truth of who you are in my heart. Bless us all with this remembrance. Thank you. And
So
just letting
beautiful.
that sink in. And if you want to use your words, different words, that's fine. It's just the intention that it's important that counts. And those little moments of praying and opening ourselves do so much. Don't underestimate them. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to leave you our details and contacts below. And Cass, let us know where people can find you if they want to know more about what you do and what you offer to this world.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'll put those in the comments too. But my website is just phoenixschoolofalignment.com. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram under Phoenix School of Alignment, so you can find me there.
Thank you so much. And
Thank
you
you all.
find me on Instagram, Anca Lavinia. It's my name, and my website is the same, Anca Lavinia. So, see you next time. Thank you so much for this wonderful connection today.
Thank you.